Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing this morning? Doing
I'm
well.
good. I'm
We're talking over
good.
each other. It's so funny.
Yeah. Well, there's always like this, it's like mirrored, so I can never figure out like what side it is on. I think I might need to switch it, on my camera because sometimes I'm like, oh.
Actually, I think it's me that needs to switch it. You notice how BOYBAS is backwards for me, and it looks correct for you.
That is why.
I actually need to flip it, and so.
Okay. All right.
So how has this week been for you?
Good. Super busy. Very busy. But good. Really good.
Yeah.
Got a lot done. Nothing too upsetting. My money is still in my bank accounts. Everything is going great. How about you?
Fingers crossed it stays that way.
Fingers crossed. And we're looking forward to trick-or-treating and Halloween stuff, So that's this weekend here for us.
Yeah. Here, I don't understand why they don't do it on the weekend because that makes so much more sense. So what? Halloween is on a Wednesday, Thursday this year? Thursday, I think. Thursday.
Yeah.
And so the kids are going to do Thursday trick-or-treating because that's what they do. They do whatever date it is. And to me, I'm just like, let's just put it on the weekend. But
yeah, we like that. It's like 4 to 6 on a Saturday always. And it's nice. And it works really well for all ages of kids, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I see some people coming on, so please let us know that you are here. So we'll end up welcoming everybody that says hello here in a minute, but I just wanted to recognize that we have some people saying hello. So please let us know that you are here. We would love to hear just a hello, to know that you are here. If you are a lurker, we do notice that we have a lot of lurkers that don't say anything. At least send us a separate message. Let us know you watched it, even if you don't feel comfortable saying hello on screen. But Cate, I wanted to tell you, so this last weekend, my daughter did the aerial silks.
Yes, and we streamed it through BOYBAS.
I got to live stream it. Now it is actually an listed event. So because I didn't get permission from everyone, but everyone, they got the private link, they were able to share it with their family members and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it was just so amazing. The show just in general, everything that they did. I don't know if you watched the whole thing or if you just watched portions of it. What were you?
Yeah, I was on duty. Jenna and Lucas were gone. So it was me and 4 kids. So we were in and out, the entire time. I was lucky to catch part of Riley's stuff live. And then I went back and watched a little bit after. I watched, I'm like, it was 90s themed and a lot of the music, was right up my alley. So like the Cranberry stuff, like I was yelling answers. I was trying to help Jay with, Dolores O'Riordan. And it was, but like, and it was also really hard to know which one was Riley. Like, so, I was looking for her long hair and, but then a lot of them had long hair. But, it was really cool and like cute, like they put a lot of time into it. The audio that they had recorded prior, it was really like well done in terms of you could feel the effort and energy that went into all of it, and that was I think one of the coolest aspects of it is that people really put their heart and soul into it, and you could tell.
Yeah, the owner and also Riley's coach is just a good visionary. Like she really understands how to choreograph music, how to choreograph a show. She wants to be almost like a mini Cirque du Soleil. And, you know, the only thing she needs is just a larger facility, because she really has the capability if they just had like more room and more ability to make it more theatrical. Because it was this event was a very small, and man, they had to really be very creative in how they were doing everything.
Yeah. But it was like a little mini Cirque du Soleil. So, you know, I mean, like she hit the bar. She just, I agree, needs more space to do more.
Yeah. And then we're going to go to a haunted house this weekend. Then Riley's supposed to be going to a haunted house next weekend. And then coming up is my 50th birthday. And I know you're coming down for it. So I was trying to do final count of people that are coming. I was sending out messages like, hey, just wanted to check in with you, you know, see if you're definitely coming. And I had some maybes and things like that. So I'm super excited about that. There's I have so many different people coming from different places in the world. Right. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're super excited. We're road tripping down. We planned it all. We're going to hit up Nashville the night before. We're super excited for it. We haven't had a trip together in a long time like this. So we're very excited. And the kids are excited too, because this is one of the first times that they will get to like be super loud without also bothering, you know, another adult who's also here and trying to sleep and maybe in their 70s, you know? So they're like, this is going to be awesome. So they've had a countdown, which has been helpful for us to be, you know, excited about as well. So
yeah. All right. Well, let me say hello to a couple people.
Yeah.
J Rose, she said, good morning, badasses. Happy Friday. Listening in the background while working, multitasking. Have a wonderful day.
Yay,
Kim says, good morning and happy Friday to my favorite beautiful badass ladies. And she also, I sent her the link as well. She said Riley was amazing. Her backflip when she came out helped me know who she was.
Yeah, right. That would, yeah. Jenna told Kim, you know, Kim and I were working together yesterday, and Jenna came in and she told Kim that she plans to just attach herself to Kim all night long because she has missed her.
Oh,
so you know, it's gonna be like, and you know, Amanda and Rain are gonna be there. Like, there's just gonna be. I mean, I know it's about you, but it's also all about us as well.
Oh no, absolutely. That's
you know?
Half of it, and
right. It's great. It's like a great service you're giving us.
Well, and you guys are going to meet people that I grew up in high school with, you know, family members, people that I've met along the way. So like I have just a whole mix of different types of people that are coming. So
yeah, that's one of the coolest parts of all this.
I'm just starting off 50 with a bang. So
yeah, rightly so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into today's topic. And so I wanted to just sort of set the stage as to one, how this topic came up. And so we actually, one of our guest speakers today ended up inspiring the conversation. So we do a debrief after the show, and Maya, who is one of our panelists and speakers, we were talking about her experience, and then Cate and her wife do foster care as well. And then I was like, oh, I also have a cousin that is very much involved in foster care as well. And so we were like, we should really just do a show on that, just so we can give people a little bit more insight into what is foster care, because he has a particular thought or they know someone, but as you start to dive in and really understand, there's a lot to it. Like, it's not just that traditional, and that's what most people think of, is that, you know, someone needs help, a child needs help, they go to a home, they stay with them. But there's like different types of foster care, and also different ways that people approach foster care. So we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is a topic that is near and dear to our heart. And I plan on doing less speaking than I usually do. So that Jenna can get a chance to talk, and our other guests. I mean, we have such a rich panel today. So I'm super excited for us to dig in and really kind of get to know everyone's experiences with the foster care system.
All right, so we're going to set the stage, and I'm going to bring up a slide. Maybe it doesn't look as well on this screen because maybe I need to get rid of us. Let me just do that so we can maybe make it bigger. You know what? Actually, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, well, that's all right. We'll keep going. And so there are 6 types of foster care, and I'm not going to go in depth in them, but I just wanted to quickly go over, so from a high level perspective, what they are. So there's relative kinship care. That involves placing children with family members, because many times people, kids that need assistance, they then they try to find people that they already know, they have a relationship with. And then there are 3 different categories of those. So there's informal kinship care, voluntary kinship, and formal kinship. And I won't get into each of those, but I just wanted to highlight the relative kinship. And then there's non-relative kinship, meaning that they know the person, but that's not necessarily a family member. So it might be a family friend, it might be a neighbor, it could be, their teacher, who knows, but that they know that they're familiar with. But they also have to go through some things. They have to get some licensing to be able to be a foster parent, but they can often, receive a temporary one at the beginning. Then there's traditional foster care, which is what most people think of, people that have volunteered to be able to do foster care. And then those individuals are put in there, they're trained professionals, and that's a permanent situation. They provide permanent care for individuals. There's specialized therapeutic and medical foster care. And so we have individuals that are going to be talking to us today that do that. But that's people that really specialize in trauma type care. And I know that that's, one of the things you and Jenna focus on is that therapeutic aspect. Then there's emergency foster care, which we have some panelists that have done that as well. But that's like, hey, we just need a short-term help to be able to quickly find a place for this person. And then there was respite care, which I was not familiar with. And we also have a panelist that does that short-term care that just offers to be able to allow a regular foster parent time to rest. So as we go through this, think about these words, or think about the things that our panelists talk about, and the different things that they do or have done a part of their care that they provided. And then I also just wanted to provide a little bit of stats. So on average is around 400,000 kids in foster care. The median in foster care, as well as the exit age in foster care, is 7 years. The median age that a child enters foster care is 6 years, and 20% are less than 1 year. And then I gave the breakdown of race and ethnicity. So you can see 40% is white, 21% Black, 20% Hispanic, and then on top circumstances, 62% neglect, drug abuse, 33%, inability to cope by the caretaker, 13%, physical abuse, 13%, housing, they just don't have housing, 11%, and child behavior, 8%. And there are some others, but I just tried to do the top ones. And then time in care, this is the age that a child is in care. So 6 to 11 months to 12, and 12 to 11, 17 months. 16% fall in that category. That's how long they're actually in care. 18 to 23 months, 13% of kids fall in that category. So that's almost 2 years that kids are, 13% of kids are there. This one was heartbreaking. 3 to 4 years in foster care, 13%. 1 to 5 months, 12%, 24 to 29, 10%. And you can see, the rest of them. You can see also 5 years or more, 5%. So I just provide some of those stats just to give people some idea.
Yeah. Yep. We've experienced, all of this. And I'm sure that our panelists have as well. So let's
dive into it.
Let's dive in. Let's bring them on.
Bring them on the stage, and let me get some things rearranged. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So what I first want to do is just have you guys do a little bit of an introduction. So if you can introduce yourself, and also for the audience, just let us know the type of foster care you are or have been involved with. And so Cate and Jenna, how about I start with you guys to start things off?
Sounds great. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be back on BOYBAS. Thanks for having me. So we were treatment foster parents for a while. That falls in the therapeutic care that you had talked about. That's a higher level of foster care. So kids with higher behavioral challenges, medical needs. We ended up adopting 2 kiddos from foster care. Both were level 6, which is the highest level in our state.
Of need.
Yeah. And that can change as they grow, obviously, but that's what they were when we adopted them. And we did that for quite a while. How long were we fostering?
Total, like 10 years?
Yeah, about 10 years. We started out with respite care, just to get a feel for how the fit would go with our kids.
And informal, we did a lot of informal.
We did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to go up to Maya and Debbie. If you guys can do a little bit of an introduction to both of you, and then the type of foster care you are involved with. And I'll also just state Jenna and Cate are wives, and then you guys are daughter and mother. So we have like different types of experiences here.
Yeah, so obviously I'm the daughter of the duo. I was the only bio child my parents had, so I grew up with all foster and adopted siblings. And I'm going to let my mom explain everything that she took on.
We basically worked with the county, and it was just shy of 20 years. We were in foster care. We did the gamut of emergencies, respites, just babysitting, whatever needed to be done, but predominantly was emergency placements turned into long-term placements a lot of times, because they were what we referred to as throwaway kids. So we would try really hard to get them straightened out and moving along. It was a wonderful experience. We are no longer doing it at this time, but we've adopted 5 of them. So she now has siblings, because she was begging for siblings, but my pony was broken. So it was the other direction. So that's how we got started.
And about how many kids do you think you ended up helping throughout that time frame?
You know, I honestly can't give a number for sure, because it was so many. I mean, it was a lot. If I had to sit and do it, I tried one time. We've tried to do this. Like I'm like the girl at McDonald's. I put something because I'm like, I can't remember all their names. And I remember going there and they'd be like, Mom. And I'm looking at them thinking, oh, because it's years later and they've grown, and I'm like, oh, hi, I'm thinking, oh my God, because I don't want to not give them the introduction into, that I remember them,
Right.
Yeah, I've had people yelling for me in Walmart, and I didn't turn around. I had no kids with me, but they chased me down to show me they had a baby and that kind of stuff. But
well, and you don't know, because when you do the respite and the emergency, some kids really stick out because they were with you for a longer time, or there was maybe a more traumatic experience that was associated with taking that placement. So I think you just it kind of blurs together after a while. I know there are certain ones that stick out for me that I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember. I don't know if I saw them on the street today. I don't know if I would recognize that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm, I can be terrible with memory things with names and stuff. So it is tough to try to
putting a number on it is kind of not possible. I really honestly do not know. It was a lot. And it was every single one a blessing. It was, I can't say my life was etched out any better than it was. God gave me, I was one of those women that cried and cried because I couldn't have more babies. And then walking into her bedroom and hearing Starlight, Starbright, and she wanted to be a sister, and I want a brother or a sister. I'll be a good, and I'm crying because I can't give her one, and and then I was like, what am I crying about? I was also raised with foster children. So we had sometimes housefuls of children that we weren't laying on the bed in the right direction. We were going this way instead, because we were stacked in with a family, and it was just Christmas every day to me when I was a kid. It was so fun. But
There you
anyway, I digress with that.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to dig in with you guys. I want to introduce our last panelist, Trinity. Can you do an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Trinity. I am Sarah's cousin. And just kind of an interesting thing is her mom and dad basically fostered my mom and dad years ago, because they were siblings, and their situations were very similar, which I think, some of that has made an impact on our generation, wanting to help out with other people. But I am a family teacher with Boys Town. We're a nationwide organization that helps with kids in foster care, helps with kids in the juvenile justice system. We have crisis hotlines. We have a ton of programs and things that we do here at Boys Town. We've serviced about 3 million kids a year. If you get onto our Boys Town website, boystown.org, I'll put that in the chat. You can read up, your viewers can read up on some of the programs and the things that we offer, and as well as ways to get involved. And my wife and I are what is called family teachers, and we are in the residential program, which is a family home program. And we have approximately 6 kids in every home that's a Boys Town family teaching home. We've been doing this for about 15 years. With that, we license a lot of foster care homes in the state of Florida, as well as other states throughout the nation. But with that, we've ended up, in our home, we've done respite care, we've done the emergency foster care. We've had kids that are just regular foster care, but we really focus on the kids that have been through multiple different placements. So more of the therapeutic. We're an evidence-based model, which there's a lot that's required for that. And because of that, we're pretty successful. So, that's my plug for Boys Town and all that we're doing.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and so Trinity and I are my father, his father, they were brothers. And then the 2 brothers married 2 sisters. So my mom and his mom, so we were double first cousins. But my dad's side, they were actually in the foster care system. My father was the oldest of 9 kids, or oldest boy of 9 kids, and he was in the middle of them all. And at age, I think 11 is when he ended up entering the foster care system. And his father, Trinity's father, entered at 3 years old. So he was twins. So they ended with twins. So we're familiar with it from my father's experience and through his father's experience. And all 9 kids, relatively stayed together. A lot of trauma, a lot of things that happened along the way. But for us, this is also a very important topic for us, just because we heard the things that, from our parents, the things that they went through. But the main thing that sort of stuck out to us is them staying together as a family. And, we remember Thanksgivings where it's just family like that. That's what stood out. We had everybody, piled into our house growing up. And my mom and dad ended up basically adopting, in a lot of ways, bringing in Trinity's mom and dad at age 15, along with the other twin. So they were, 18 and I can't remember, 18 and like 22 or something like that, and had 15-year-old kids that they brought in. Wow. So let's get in. I've told you a little bit about me, and maybe Trinity, let me flip back over to you real quick, and then we'll go to the others. Tell us what got you involved in fostering.
So, when I was in college, my wife and I did a program where we basically went and helped out in different group homes across the Midwest, children's homes, and just life circumstances. I was in a career, and I had some goals, and life circumstances took place that I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and thyroid cancer, and my goal was to do military chaplaincy, and that got derailed with cancer. And it was like, all right, what do we do now? And my dad had been volunteering at a group home in Missouri called Coyote Hill or something like that. And he's like, you should look into this. And I'm like, I'm not raising my kids around, kids that are in the foster care system because, I was worried, that something could happen to my own children. And, but as time went by, I was like, maybe we should look into this. And so we looked at several different group home opportunities, where my wife and I could live together in the home with the kids and do it as a full-time job. Some of the better organizations out there were Milton Hershey, which is up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and then Boys Town. And those were the two that really stood out to us. We applied at both. In Boys Town, just kept coming up because, as far as fiscal responsibility and that sort of thing, it was around 2009 that we were looking. And so, we were in the recession, and we knew that if we're going to get involved with an organization, it had to be a solid organization. And so Boys Town really fit that bill. And so we, said, hey, we'll give it a shot. We can try it for a year or two and see what happens. And 15 years later, we're still with Boys Town, loving it. We're really, just have a drive to help kids, but, it also helps having a good, solid organization behind us that makes it a little bit easier.
I love that story. I just have to point out, like, you're telling that, and I'm like, God had bigger plans for you, man. Wow.
Right.
It's crazy, because we didn't anticipate doing this type of thing. We thought about it, before we had kids, but our biggest fear was raising kids, which our kids at the time were, our daughter was like 5, our son was 10. And that's a very influential age. And we didn't want to raise them, and put them at risk. But, having raised them here at Boys Town, we've seen just the amazing people that they've become, because they've seen, they've seen kids at their worst. They've seen them at their worst, but they've also seen them overcome, which is just phenomenal. So, both of them are, have servants' hearts. Our son is in the Navy, and our daughter wants to do emergency management. So like working with FEMA and stuff like that. And so I'm a proud parent.
Yes, for sure.
So Brian, Debbie, I saw you guys sort of react when he said joining, having kids join and have other kids. So tell us a little bit about what got you involved in foster care, and maybe why you guys sort of like looked at each other like, oh my gosh, it sort of it seemed to resonate with you.
It was the part about like how you thought about it, like you kind of second guessed it because you're like, I don't know if I want to raise my kids around this, because that I think is a common misconception that people assume that if you bring foster kids into your home, your kids are going to get damaged and traumatized or whatever. And as a parent, like, yeah, you're protective and stuff. But I was talking to Mom prior to this saying, like, I think that's a thing that people misunderstand or assume. And I'm like, but if you're a hands-on, proactive, you can do that, and not, you're benefiting your kid that, like you said, your kids are better for it. I feel that I'm better for it. The experience can actually benefit your bio child as well as the fosters that you're bringing in and changing the lives of. So that really was like something that was a topic that resonates for me as the kid growing up in that house.
Yeah.
It
Debbie,
is when you come into foster care as the parent, it is a question mark, because you do have to ask yourself if your balance and your consistency and the love that you have and the heart that you have involved in your work is enough to protect as well as give, and not make it different. Because the one thing that I noticed going through the classes and such when we were getting trained in, there's a variety of people that become foster parents, and unfortunately you can tell the ones that don't have the heart for it. And I know that that's a sad thing to say, but it's you've got to put your heart in it, and the children are your children, no matter how long they're there, and treating them the same, making a balance. The consistency was the big thing. My kids used to make fun because they'd say, and as adults, they said to me, I loved coming home because I always knew right where you were, because I always stopped whatever I was doing when the clock hit 3 o'clock and I knew they were going to be walking in. I'd sit on the couch and wait for the entourage, because we always had 6 children at least. And we had a few times where there were children wavered in that we would have 8. The court would have to waiver them in because that puts you into a home level, and at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, come and inspect our home and everything. But anyway, like I said, the heart has to be in it. And I think protecting your child is being aware. There is a lot of a mixed baggage of what the children are coming in with, but it's their damage that is projecting that, not them. And until they get in an environment that really gives them the stability to realize what is normal in an interaction in a family, children would come to the house and I would say, well, you're going to go really hungry if you don't go over to the fridge and get something, because I never would wait on them, because waiting on them made them not feel at home. I said, if you start getting stuff for yourself, it's there for you just like it is for us, but I'm not going to wait on you. We threw them right into it. And she always was a very strong piece of the puzzle, because she was very adaptable, because our house was constantly in movement. Like, we have 2 boys, so these 2 boys get in these bunk beds. Oh, wait, we're getting another girl, so now we have to
Different rooms all the
we were
time.
switching the rooms and the beds around in minutes, trying to hurry up and make it right for whatever group of kids were coming. I had a loft in my house that was substantial size.
Or when you give a girl a hammer was born. You might have seen me post about that recently.
It was actually a big closet that had an attic pull down in it. And I was talking to my husband one day, and I said, this would be really neat if it was open and we could use it for the kids and stuff. He's like, oh, I don't know if I want to take it on. And I said, I think it'd be really great. And I don't know what compelled me, but I put my foot through the wall. I just went, yeah. And I hammered my foot literally went through the wall. Thank God, not on a beam. I didn't break anything. And it was drywall stuff. So I ripped the walls down while he was at work and carried him bucket for bucket down. And we made an open loft with a railing. It was really cute.
We come home from school. This is what we find. The house is in here.
And I put curtains one time because we had this one boy, but the rest were girls. And so all the bedrooms were occupied in bunk beds with girls. And I needed a boy space. So it was all curtained off, and it made boys. He loved that room. Oh my goodness. It became a bedroom, like a holdover for the next whatever until we got another boy. But
it sounds like it was chaos at times. So
it was, but it was fun chaos. And everybody, foster kids crawling with me, putting insulation in because we built our house out. We
I have to add though, I'm sorry to interrupt, but pertaining to the whole parent of bio, bringing in all the kids and the worries that come with that, I think for me, one of the things that I always convey to people is she checked on me. It was a lot, and she involved me and my dad. They involved me in the decision to start, and I was only 8
She was 8
when
years
they
old.
started.
I have to interject, excuse me, but children and youth had come to me and said she is the first biological child of 8 years old to want to write her own bio, because we had to do an autobiography of why we wanted to be foster parents, where we came from, what was our discipline like, etc.
I wish we had that. I'd kill to read that.
And she goes, I want to do it too. And so she sat at the table and made her own autobiography book, put into the packet as we were becoming foster parents. She was very involved.
But that chaos to that end is you know, there would be moments that she might pull me aside and just say, like, are you okay? Or do you feel like you're getting enough attention? Is there anything that you need? You know what I mean? And like, I never needed anything, but, and I do this with my own kids to this day, like, because I have a blended family. And so there are times where I pull my own kids aside as a result, because then I say, are you getting what you need? Do you feel like you're, you know, you're okay in this dynamic? Like, we try to keep that line of communication. Like, I think that's so important for the success of things.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to jump over to Cate and Jenna. If you guys can talk a little bit about why you got involved in foster care.
Yeah, definitely. So similar to you and Trinity, my dad was in the foster care system when he was a child in California. And his foster mom had, you know, probably 50 kids in and out of her house, informally, formally, and she remained in his life throughout adulthood. And she is who I knew as my grandmother. So she never adopted him, but everyone always went back to Mama Gibson's house. And she always had food, and she always made quilts, and we lived near her. And so as a child, I remember being in her home and watching different people come in and out, and always asking my dad, you know, who is that? Oh, that's uncle this person, that's aunt this person. And just, they bring their children, and it was just warm. And I didn't have that at home, not because my parents didn't want to give that to me, but they also had their own traumas. So when I went to Grandma Gibson's house, it was warm and it was full of love. And she took me to church, and she taught me how to make quilts, you know, when I was 8 years old. And I just remember feeling this overwhelming love. And I thought at 8 years old, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be. So fast forward, I also wanted a lot of kids, and Cate promised me that that would be what I would get if we got married. So, when we are also a blended family. So I had 2 from a previous marriage, and Cate had 1. And we were happy. We were blending. We were doing well, and I wanted more. And our youngest was 4. And I was just kind of, you know, hey, you know, I was pushing the envelope a little bit. And she finally said, okay, we can do it. You can carry. And so we decided to get a donor, and we have a 9-year-old from that experience. But while I was pregnant with him, she said, you know, actually, no, I'm messing this up. That is not, she said, we can do foster care. That is what happened. It's been 10 years. We have space, we have love, we have time. Let's expand. Something you've always wanted to do. You want to give back the way your dad had his life. And so I was okay with that. And it was about 3 months into that, she said, I feel like you're going to regret this, or I'm going to regret this. Let's also have a baby. So then we decided to pursue that. I became pregnant while we were filling out our foster care license. And on the day that our son was born, our license came in the mail. So it was very divine.
Wow.
And it worked out really well. In between that, we had a lot of informal foster placements in our home throughout friends that we knew, people that we would come across, and we learned kind of what you guys were talking about, how that affects our bio kids. We had older kids come into our lives and stay with us, and our oldest would kind of push back. He felt a little uncomfortable. So then we had some younger kids come in, and everyone did well. And so when we decided to pursue foster care, we did respite, and we played with that a little bit to see how it affected the dynamic in our home. Since we already had 3, and I was bringing in another one, and then we were going to bring in a foster kiddo. So we did respite care for a while, and we realized that younger kids was the best for everyone. It didn't affect the birth.
What is kind of the birth order?
Yeah.
You know, like our oldest 2 wanted to remain the oldest 2. They didn't want someone else coming in.
Yeah. And it really helped them. Kind of how you guys were talking, Debbie, like we would connect with the older ones and say, how are you doing? But we watched these little spats that they would have just completely dissipate. So he's sitting too close to me in the car. He's sitting too here. He got the window last time. That went away when they saw that these kids were coming into our homes with plastic garbage bags of dirty clothes, and they didn't have anything. And And I remember our oldest was 9 and our second oldest was 7 at the time when this was happening. And I remember them both sitting down with me at lunch one day. We homeschool, so they were home. And said, Mom, we're sorry for arguing. We have so much, and these kids are coming in and they don't have things, and we're arguing about these silly things. A 9 and a 7-year-old, and they're coming and they're just so aware. And that's when this was with respite care, and that's when I told Cate, like, this is really helping them also. If this is helping them at that level, imagine how this will continue.
Right.
And so.
Jenna, I know one of the reasons you guys also, if in talking with Cate, one of the things that was super important to you guys as well is also to maintain that relationship with the parents as well. That was one of the other things that was really important to you.
We wanted to foster to help families reunify.
We did not want to adopt.
We weren't going to adopt, and not because we didn't want to or we didn't have the time, the love. Our hearts were in it. But a big misconception that I believe is a big misconception that foster care is an easy, inexpensive route to adoption. And that breaks my heart because I know that my grandma, although I never met her, would have loved to have her kids back. And my dad and his siblings, 6 of them, would have loved to be reunited with their family. So when it is possible, reunification is the best outcome. And so our goal, and we have a close friend here in Milwaukee who also does this, but when I'm talking with her, we realized that our goal was to help keep the families together, to get them back home. And so, yeah, that was a major thing. And as we went through the training, we realized that that was not the goal of a lot of foster families that were applying. I want infants. They want 2 and under because they want foster to adopt right away. And that's heartbreaking to us.
And the attitudes, there was a lot of, these foster parents screwed this up, or these bio parents screwed this up, and
they don't deserve
they lost their chance. They made this mistake and something happened, and and to us it was like, well, we all make mistakes, and if we're taking the time to care and try to mold these kids, why can't we at the same time work on the relationship with their bio parents and do whatever we can to help the bio parents?
It's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
I love that. Trinity, if I can go to you, you guys brought up a great topic of misconceptions. What do you find as far as misconceptions people have about the foster care system?
Just tune into Criminal Minds. And it's aggravating because every unsub on Criminal Minds, out of 10 of them, 8 of them were in foster care or group home care. And that's the biggest misconception that I feel, that our kids have to fight is, that they're so messed up that they're going to, be serial killers, or they're going to be, rapists, or they're going to be incarcerated. And, does it happen? Yes. I mean, we all know that, traumatized people cause trauma in others. But the biggest misconception for me about foster care that I see is just how the media and how, entertainment looks at it. I've had over 200 kids in our home in the last 15 years, and I can think of absolutely 0 of them that are murderers.
Right.
So,
0%.
I get the worst kids. I've had kids that prior to coming to Boys Town could have been brought up on charges for attempted homicide, for that sort of thing. They're a product of their environment, but with Boys Town and with, families that are nurturing, that are doing all the essential things to change that trajectory, there's not that trajectory for kids that are in foster care. The media points it out. This is what's going to happen. all that sort of thing. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Well, fortunately, I should say, not unfortunately. It's unfortunate that they do that because, we go into schools and the school says, well, what's a boy's kind of kid look like? Well, some have blonde hair, some have brown hair, some have blue hair, some have red hair, some have orange hair. I mean, what does the average kid look like? That's what a kid in foster care looks like. And to me, it's just frustrating, some of the associations that media does with foster care. And that's a big thing to me is just, and I tell my kids all the time, like, hey, look, society doesn't think well of you. However, if you do the things that if you use the tools that we give you to be successful, you're going to not just prove them wrong, but you're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. You're going to be who you've been created to be. And to me, that's an amazing thing. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. And you actually are sort of leading me into a different direction. And Debbie and Maya, I want to go with you. What is a success story that stands out in your mind?
Mm-hmm. I know who comes to my mind.
Me too. I bet it's the same.
Jamie.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like your kids, Jenna and Cate. I wanted to be the big sister. Mm-hmm. So over time, that proved to not work out. They ended up getting a call in the middle of the night one time. Ended up started taking teenagers. I was 10 at that point. So I guess it was Jamie was the second teenager. She was 13, I want to say at the time. And, troubled, came from what you discussed earlier, some rough runaround kind of stuff, doing her own thing, lots of attitude, really big hair, really skimpy clothes, and she seemed, for my 10-year-old self, she seemed so much older than 13, so much older.
Right.
And
in her
so
actions.
much attitude.
Oh my goodness.
She did not want anybody's help. She did not need this. Well, and that's common, right? With teenagers that have had to fend for themselves or have, overcome certain traumas or just trying to find coping mechanisms. So, she came in with all of that, and she is formerly adopted now. She is, she's a first-time grandmother now.
Just adopted her, actually. It was unfortunately, my husband passed away. Her dad passed away in a motorcycle accident, and we were in the process of starting to adopt this girl. And she is, by the way, has given us permission to tell her story as many times as we want, because she was an extremely street savvy, promiscuous Barbie doll. She just, the makeup and the fluff. But anyways, when he passed away, we had stopped it because her sisters got put it back into foster care, her biological sisters. And her biological father,
legitimately feeling
I know, me too. Speaking on the topic of working with the parents, like you had said, it resonated with us because we did that as well. We would bring the parents to our house to sleep over Christmas Eve so they could be there for their kids Christmas morning and things like that. Because it is an integral part of them, and you've got to love them to make them feel okay too. Because they're not part of a garbage pile. They're part of their background. They're part of those. Yeah. And when you reject them, you're rejecting their bloodline in their mind too, in some instances. Anyway, back to Jamie. I'm sorry. She was very rebellious and acted out a little bit and a lot before we got her. And I remember taking her upstairs because I always spent the first hour or so with them alone and going through what belongings they had so we could go shopping and get what was necessary. And I remember her pulling her clothes out of her garbage bag. And I said to her, honey, here's what we're going to do. I said, we're going to fold these up. These are yours and you get to keep these. I said, but we're going to go out and get you a new wardrobe, because she was wearing, she was wearing a tube top for a skirt. You know what I mean? That's how little clothes were. And her makeup was oh, and her hair. Oh, geez. But anyway, I said to her, I said, let's have a clean slate. We'll have a party. We'll go shopping and we'll blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but I. And I said, well, let's just try it. I said, if it doesn't work out, we'll revisit. Long story short, we put her stuff up in the attic, went shopping, and got her a new wardrobe that was more 13-year-old clothing. And she was a little miffed about it, but she was excited too because she still got to pick her taste, just cover up a little bit. So she enrolled in school and everything. And one day she went, because I said to her, no, you're not wearing that tube top for a skirt. It's not appropriate. So she snuck it on the bus. She put it in her book bag. She told me this story as an adult. I didn't know it then. And she said, I stuck it in my bag because I was going to go to the ladies' room and change it when I got to school. And I said, really? How did you? And she goes, I got it when you weren't looking at it. She said, I went to put it on. She said, it wasn't in my book bag. And I was like, thank you, God, because it was like, it was lost. She couldn't find it anymore. She has no idea what happened to it. I still think divine intervention because it was awful. And so time went on. And one day she got really ticked off at me and stuff. And I said to her, well, she was bitching terribly about her wanting to get out of it. I don't want to live here and I hate it here and that. So she called her. I said, well, we'll call your caseworker and talk to her. And so she did. And she's sitting by me and she's going on and on about how she hates here and she doesn't want to be here. And when she was finished with her 45-minute phone call, I was drinking my tea and I said to her, can I talk to her when you're finished? And she said, she goes here and she hands me the phone. And I said, don't move her. I said, she's starting to feel something and she's trying to shut it down because she was starting to want to get rid of us before we could get rid of her. She was trying to escape.
Yeah.
She got so mad at me. She stomped up to her bedroom and she was like, why did you slam the doors? And why did you even tell me to call my caseworker? And I said, you needed to do that. You needed to get it out. I said, but we're going to be fine here. And I said, let's talk it out, blah, blah. But she ended up staying. I asked her as an adult, I said, why did you stop running away? Why did you stop everything you stopped? Because you always checked on me and you always made me do better. And she said, I never had that before. Such a simple little thing that you don't even think of doing. And it was a very big impression with her to make her be better. And
she's a very successful woman, not like she pursues her education, like she's been married since she married her high school sweetheart.
And he's wonderful.
Yeah, he's a lifer from Coast Guard. Like amazing, like had 2 kids, they're amazing. She now has a grandson.
He's amazing.
It's amazing to watch, like honestly, and she became my role model. Like it's funny because, I've gone through some stuff in my adult life where it pertains to relationships. And I've always told her that her and her husband are like my example. Like they were my shining light of what it should be like. And just there's so many times that I've looked up to her and I just think, it's so interesting because I think from her perspective, sometimes she's like, how is that possible? Like that I can put her in that place. And then, our lives have just always, I don't see any of my siblings as anything other than blood to me. You know what I mean? Like one time, one of my sisters said to me, well, it's not like we're blood. I freaking melted, like privately. I had a meltdown later because she was a teenager and she was going through a time and it was whatever. But I was like heartbroken. Like I don't think that way. So it was a huge jab. I mean, I know she didn't mean it in that moment, but like it hit. And like I don't like that's why I'm emotional just talking about them because there is so much love. I don't see it any other way. You know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah. All right, I'm going to open this up to the group. So whoever thinks this particular topic resonates with them strongly, if you could change anything about the foster care system, what would it be? Anybody really passionate about that topic?
I am.
All right, Kate, you go.
We all probably have a lot of something.
Before we jump ahead, can I quickly just speak on the success story?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Okay. So we have what we consider a really great success story in our family currently that we live day to day. Our youngest is 7 and she's adopted through the foster care system, and her bio family is like our family. So she's able, for a while, she was able to go visit with them for a week in the summer or weekends here and there. And we're taking a little break right now because she was having a hard time going back and forth, but we're still in communication. They FaceTime, they text, and that started with her mom and dad not being just, in the darkness about what the foster care system was, having been in the system for a while with other kiddos. And so I called her bio mom 70 times the first week that we brought her home from the hospital until she answered. I wasn't going to give up. And I just said, I have your baby and she's beautiful, but she's not mine. Like, she's yours. You need to go to court. And she did. She listened, and we slowly formed this relationship. And I would consider her more of a sister at this point, a close friend. She didn't have anyone. The system was failing her. She was a product of a lot of trauma, as most of us are, and she didn't know what to do. And so we just guided her. And Cate would help when she could, but she works a lot. I'm home with the kids, and she showed up for every visit. I was helping her. The baby had some medical issues, so we were teaching her feedings. I was supervising it per the agency. That was okay. And she showed up and she called, and she'd even started calling about questions about her other daughter that she had at home. We just started getting closer and closer. They came for dinner. They came for Christmas. They came for Thanksgiving, birthday parties. We planned that they could make it. And when we got to a point where the system wasn't moving them to outside of supervised visits for over a year, and they said, we want you guys to adopt, we told them. We were able to just share with them, this is where the system is headed. And it took them a little while, but they came to us and they said, we want you guys to be the adoptive parents, because if someone else does this, we won't see her the way that we see her now. In Wisconsin, we have closed adoption. So they have as much legal right to her as any of you do. And so we agreed, although we had already adopted one kiddo, and the plan in the beginning was to never adopt. So we agreed we'd all become family at this point. And throughout this adoption, we brought her home at 4 weeks. She'll be 8 in January. We've gained a family. We've gained family members. They bring Christmas presents for our other kids. We buy Christmas presents for the daughter that they do have at home. And that is one of the biggest success stories, I believe, because, again, back to the misconceptions that these bio families are wrong, that there's something wrong with them. There's not. They also need help, and the system doesn't provide that often.
Yeah. I agree. And I have to say, it leads me into the change that you're asking about. I feel very, very strongly, and we're like kindred spirits here, because it is a super important.
We knew that.
It was a very super important part of an integral part of the whole thing that is not knitted together very well in the foster system, because, like I said before, the parents need help too, and the kids need to know that they count in this whole thing. And it really helps the child to know that the parents are involved, and we're involving, and we're loving them too. And I think oftentimes there is a lot of throwaway. And I used to have problems with the agency where I would say, don't tell me how to do this. I have the child and their family. You're carrying a file. The file is a cold piece of paper. You have no touch on the pulse of anything.
You are the humanity piece.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
So you need to touch with, because you can't know the child without knowing their environment, where they came from, who they are. And it's just as important as yours that you're presenting to them, because it helps you understand where you need to go and drive through the whole thing. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. That is a big thing. And I think that they should make it part of that. It's at least attempted to have a coming together of the families, even if it is just like you are the monitor of the visits and such, because we have a child that I got a lot of children at birth because they were drug addicted, and they come with a lot of machinery or fetal alcohol. And I had one father, they broke up, the girlfriend and husband broke up over the birth of the child and everything. And there was some mental illness involved in it. The father, however, was trying to come together with the health issues of this child. I adopted him, but he's autistic, and he had some issues. He had to be suctioned out. He didn't breathe well. He had a lot of health issues and almost died several times. Was helicoptered to Hershey Hospital in Pennsylvania for RSV and stopped breathing and stuff. And the father tried really hard, and he got approved for housing, and he was about to get the child back. And he came to me crying, and he said, because I did his visits, and he came to me, he said, I love him, and I want to do this, but I know I'm not capable. I know I can't, but I will sign the papers if you are the ones adopting him. And that I bawled my head off, and because it was, it had a weight both ways. Like I felt very proud that he trusted me, but I felt very sad for him because I can't imagine feeling incapacitated in any way that I couldn't take care of my children. It counts in all of it. So it's one of the things that with the baby books are the things that I tried to put together for particularly the babies, but with the grown children as well, is as much information as possible about their birthing family. And would put it in their books. And I would ask the parents, that were signing off their rights and stuff, write a letter, put some pictures in, seal the envelope. I will not open it. It'll be in their book. And I helped the kids reach out. I think of Lizzie, I took her to visit her biological family so she could know who they were and where she came from. I have adopted siblings as well because being raised in foster care myself. And I asked them, I interviewed them, and I said, tell me how I can be a better foster parent. What is it that I can give? You experienced it. What did you miss? What did you want? And they said, I kind of really would have loved to know who I looked like, or I would have really liked to know, where I come from as far as my background. Who, what am I? Am I German? Am I, Italian? What am I? There was a lot of questions. So I always tried to find those answers to have them in their baby books so that they could find a piece of themselves, because it's important. We take it for granted. But these other kids are wiped out. They get, what do they get if we don't do the work? So going back to that question, it is important to bring everything together, because full circle is what makes healthy. If you need it all. So
Debbie, I really love that.
God gives us the capabilities of doing that. Unfortunately, sometimes the agencies tie our hands with what we can and cannot do. And it's really sad, but some of the people that work for the agencies don't necessarily have the child in their best interest. Do you know what I mean? And it's
I'm going to pull up a comment, and then Trinity, I'm going to go to you. Shayna added, I love this conversation. I raised 8 preteen girls as a foster mom, and I loved watching them grow through the pain and blossom once they realized I wasn't going anywhere and they were safe emotionally and physically. And I love y'all. One thing I wanted to mention, we had a previous person come on. Her name was Katie Harbison. And one of the things that also stood out to me, she oversees, she's the CEO of a company that helps kids. And one of the things on the things that you would change, a part of the system that stood out to me in the interview with her, is the day that you pulled the child away from a parent. What they did is the Elijah House, they made like a beautiful home, and they have people that donate things that the day that the child comes there, instead of them being at the Department of Family Services on the floor calling people saying, hey, can you take this kid? And they're hearing no. They're hearing those types of things. Instead, they take the child to this beautiful home and they make them what they want. They give them new clothes. You want a PS4? Like, what do you want? Like, they just shower the child, on the worst day of their life. They make it into, something that is a different thing in their mind. So for me, if every single, foster care could have something along those lines, that's what I would change. And Trinity, what are your thoughts here?
Well, definitely, when we look at foster care, we need to look at the full gamut of everything. I get a kid and we rehabilitate them. and they go back home. Well, what's that look like? Are we providing services to the parent? Unfortunately, and I think everybody on the panel can understand this. I've had kids that are rehabilitated. Mom has done drug court. She's done all the things to manage her situation, except for the fact that, she's got 3 kids and she's only got a 1-bedroom apartment because she can't afford it. But yet foster care, the system pays, head counts to, all the different agencies and whatnot. And when you add that up, if that mom got that money for those kids, and she's done all of her work and everything that she's supposed to do,
Right.
she'd probably have a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom apartment. And so wraparound services are something really, really important. The problem is, we have kids that in a year's period of time will have 3 to 6 different case managers, 3 to 6 different guardian ad litums, and it's just mind-boggling. And when you talk to these case managers that have been in the system working with these kids for a long time, they'll tell you, I have 35 to 40 kids on my caseload that they have to see every month. And then you have, some of the higher need care, some of the higher needs kids, that, maybe they're acting out and they're getting kicked out of placements every week, and so this case manager is in contact with that kid on a day-to-day basis. Also the biggest frustration we have here in the state of Florida, and I think it's everywhere, is there's so many kids in foster care without any opportunity to go to a foster home or a group home. They're spending the night in the case manager's offices,
Right.
Pull out bed. They're spending the night in a hotel room, with there'll be 2 or 3 other kids there and a case manager that's sitting out in the hallway. And that's not good.
Right.
And so a lot of it, to be honest, I've had kids that mom has done everything possible to get the kids back, but she just doesn't have the finances to show that hey, I've got a 3-bedroom apartment, but yet the department is paying thousands of dollars per month for these kids to be in foster care. And you figure a mom with 3 kids, and they're paying thousands per month per child. You can have a really nice house for about $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. But yet on the same token, we've got to provide the care and the services, not only just to keep kids out of foster care, but when they go back home to not come back into foster care. A lot of my kids are repeats. They were in foster care, they've gone home, they've come back into foster care. And stress management is the number 1 cause of a kid being in foster care. So stress management causes drug addiction, it causes neglect, it causes domestic violence. All of those factors that you put in on the slide, except for, maybe homelessness, all of those are contributed to by lack of stress management. So if we can teach parents how to be better parents, then we can eliminate the problem of foster care. We're not going to eliminate it, obviously, but we can get to the point where it's not a crisis. And we're at crisis right now. If I have a kid that's, needing to be moved out of our placement, and if I call the placement agency, there's no shelters open right now. There's no homes open right now. There's none of that. But if we could prevent that kid from coming into foster care to begin with, we'd be golden. We live in an era, in an age, and where a parent can choose not to have their child. In most areas, yeah, I understand there's a lot going on with that. But the truth is, these parents love their kids. They just don't know how to show it. They've never been taught how to take care of kids. And if we can change that, and that's one of the things Boys Town really focuses on, is the way that America cares for kids. We want to change, the way America is dealing with children. And unfortunately, we're doing a horrible job as a nation in dealing with foster care, because if you look in any state, there's hundreds of kids that are sitting in hotel rooms, case managers' offices. They're renting out storefronts, putting beds in them for kids to stay in. That's, I can't imagine that that's good for a child. It's not. But yet we have so much that we could do before the kid comes into care. These parents, they love their kids. They just haven't been taught how to change their life. And if we can do that with wraparound services, that's amazing.
Yeah. All right. I want to start to wrap things up because I know it's going to take a little while for us to get through everybody. But one, I want to get final thoughts on. And I also want, if you could help people understand how they can get involved. Like sometimes people can't be their situation. They're like, no way I could be a permanent foster parent. But if you can give ideas of like, what other things can people actually do to be able to help with this situation? So who wants to start with final thoughts and how can people get involved?
I'll start. There is a need, and also it's out there, but a lot of people will go to Salvation Army before they'll go to a foster agency and drop off their old luggage, or any of, like, sometimes even their donated clothing that's from children. It is a very big help when people donate to the agency, so they can put clothes on the children. They can send the children with a bottle or formula or anything like that. They do have programs that you can drop off your luggage, and then a child can have a bag instead of a garbage bag. There's that, and there's also reaching out to find out even the big sister and big brother programs that are out there, because they do help exponentially to get someone else involved, that they have someone that cares about them, to take them out for some kind of something that's just personally for them. There's a lot of different little things that people can do, and it starts even just donating a little bit of time. We're donating a little of your old baby clothes, because I know that a lot of babies are born and they don't have anything at all. I've had lots come with just dirty diapers.
Yeah, I think advocacy, even if that's all, you think, oh, it's all you can do. But for me personally, like I can't do fostering, and I think it's a really big deal to me. Like I feel very passionate about, because it's been an impact in my life. But I think speaking out about my experience as a foster sibling and speaking out about what my family did, like if you actually just put it out there, like people don't know. Yeah,
you're helping people understand, because I remember neighbors coming over saying, I never knew there was this many children needing placements or that were in foster care.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm just one person. Imagine what's going on in other houses. And people, there was 2 other families that joined foster care because they met us. That is not tooting my horn. That is getting the voice out there. That is let people know, you may only have 1 bed, or you may only be able to do respites. You may only be able to do a quick babysitting for somebody to go to a doctor appointment. Any of those things are very, very helpful to the foster homes, to the agencies, and to the children.
That respite care that you guys were talking about too, like I feel like that's a great thing for people that can't really feel compelled to commit to anything long term. Like there are foster families that it sounds a little wrong to say it, but they need a break, because I can remember it gets overwhelming sometimes. Like even to me at times as I became a teenager and would see some of the kids that were coming through, and it got rough and I would see the disrespect and I would get frustrated because I'm like, you're treating my parents like garbage and that's not how we do things, you know, like even I would need a break sometimes as a teen. So respite care provides that, you know, for the foster families, for the foster kids, like it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, I didn't even realize until we were doing the show and I was doing research. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I didn't know that there was respite care. Like I didn't know, I thought it was like an all or nothing thing. So for me, that was the main thing. I was like, well, shit, if I can convince Jay to do respite care, like like he may actually be willing to do that, but there's no way, you know, he would be willing to do permanent. But respite care, you know, I could see us doing something like that, or at least I could see myself doing something.
And usually the foster agencies don't allow just anyone to babysit the kiddos. So as foster parents, we need a respite care provider.
Especially
we
if
can't
they're, like,
ask a
medically,
sister-in-law or a cousin or the next door neighbor. They have to be approved through the agency to babysit. So you don't get those breaks unless you have an approved respite care provider. So it's actually a wonderful way to help out because then you're providing support to those that can do permanent foster care. And caregiver support is huge in the foster community and in any community, even as a biological parent, a teacher, you know, caregiver support is great. So respite care, 100%. For a while, what we did, and you had talked about advocacy, that is wonderful. So we recruited foster parents and adoptive parents for the state of Wisconsin. We lost our funding in COVID, but we were out there. We were setting up at farmers markets, museums. One time we did the movie theater when that movie came out with Mark Wahlberg, like Instant Family or something. So people like were walking out like, oh, and I'm like, hey, yeah, right, you know, pulling their heartstrings.
It's like being at the Weight Watchers, you know, with like cookies. Sorry.
I'm like heartstrings, come here. So advocacy is a wonderful way to help, just to get the word out there. People don't know how many kids are in out-of-home care. They don't know how they can help. And donation is also really great, but I would say advocacy and respite care, number one. And if you can't do any of that, you don't have the time, you don't understand how to do it, you can call your agency, you can ask, you can say, what can I do to help? How can I spread the word? And that's usually they have a ton of ways that you can help. We would hand them out when we would go and set up our little table. You know, if you can't foster, here are 10 ways that you can help. In our county, we have something called the foster care closet where you can donate clothes, toys, backpacks, luggage. And a foster mom set that up years ago. She started that. So that's another way you can get involved. You can start that in your community if you don't have something like that.
And if there's just Trinity, one quick thing, because I do think it's important for the audience. You can do this very, kind of passively as well. Like there are millions of Facebook groups that are for foster parents, you know, so you can find one in your community, join it, and then a foster parent can say, hey, I've got an incoming kiddo coming tonight, and I don't have a toddler bed, you know, and then I have a toddler bed, you know, like that.
Connecting Bridges is usually the Facebook group in the Midwest. I'm not sure if that's throughout the nation, but Connecting Bridges is the Facebook group that we use. Yeah.
Well, and you know, along with that, just when you stop at Dollar General and you're getting your toothpaste, pick up an extra tube, pick up an extra toothbrush, you know, pick up an extra bottle of shampoo or conditioner. You know, these kids, if they're lucky, they get 10 minutes to pack up all their belongings when the agency comes and removes them from the home. And I don't know, I don't even think that my 20-year-old daughter, if she had 20 minutes to pack up, is going to remember, you know, her toothbrush, her shampoo, that sort of thing. She will remember her makeup. As a 5-year-old, what are you going to grab? You're going to grab your Nintendo Switch. You're going to grab, you know, your favorite shoes, maybe. And that's about it. And you are going to throw it into a garbage bag because you're not thinking about, you know, a lot of these families don't have luggage. So, you know, donating luggage, donating personal hygiene items, underwear, socks, those are cheap, inexpensive ways that people can get involved, and you can drop it off at your, if you look at for family services, whether it be DCF or DFS, depending on whatever state you're in, you can look up, these, agencies and drop that off. They love getting that.
Yeah.
If you do a personal hygiene drive through, maybe your work or through your church or through your neighborhood, and then drop that stuff off, that right there is the biggest thing, the biggest way to help in a small way, if that makes sense. Because those are the things that they need. And when a kid comes into a foster care placement and you're like, I don't have an extra toothbrush right now, that's not good. So if the agency can provide that stuff for them, through donations, through people, that are just wanting to do whatever they can, that's an awesome way to help. I love the luggage thing because, one of the things we deal with here at Boys Town is our kids leave and they leave for various different things. And, I hate packing a kid up in garbage bags. Even here at Boys Town, we'll go buy the nice plastic totes at Home Depot or whatever to pack them up. Even if they leave on a negative note, I don't want them going to their next placement with all of their stuff in a garbage bag. Garbage bags are for garbage. And I don't want them to go to that next placement feeling like my stuff's just garbage.
Right.
I'll buy boxes. I buy the Home Depot boxes. I buy the Walmart boxes, the U-Haul boxes, the nice plastic totes, all of that, because, I want them to see that their stuff has value and that they have value as well. And, even though, a kid could be a complete skunk, and leave for the worst reasons, but I want them to be successful no matter how they leave. And one of the things that we've, you asked about success stories, and, having hundreds of kids, there's a lot of them. But my ones that really touched base the most are the ones that I thought that were not success stories when they left. You have a kid that, is you're like, they leave and you're like, man, I really failed this kid. And then 2 years later, they message you and they're like, I thank you so much for all that you did. And if that could be encouragement to anybody that's currently fostering, they're like, I hate this. This is horrible. That the profits of what you're doing, the proceed, the fruit, so to say, is not always noticeable.
Right.
Especially when they're teenagers.
Yeah, exactly.
None of us are done until we're well into our 20s. So you're kind of, excuse me for saying it, but we're all kind of assholes at a certain range of time. We're just going to be that way innately.
Right.
And to think that, a kid having 15 years of horrible experiences can come into my home for 6 months and I'm going to work some magic to change all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. We need at least a year.
Yes.
And we do see that response after a year that, that the brain chemistry starts to change. Mm-hmm. And there's some evidence behind that. If you check it out at boystown.org, you can do it. But the truth is we, how do we think that we can work a miracle, in a life that's had 16 years of trauma?
Right.
And we get them, and and we think that the 6 months or the 8 months that we've got them, that we're going to make some huge difference right away. No, we're planting the seed that has to be cultivated. And my encouragement to any foster parents out there or anybody that's doing group care or anything of that sort is don't lose that hope. I've had kids leave under some of the worst situations, and it's not my story to tell, so I'm not going to go all into it. But when they call back and they're like, hey, thank you for everything that you did. You showed me what a family really looks like. And now I'm able to do that. And I'm able to have that relationship with my mom that I had with you and Miss Misty. And to me, that's amazing. I love that, you know, we've had lots of success stories, but, you know, it's just, you know, don't give up.
Mhm.
You know, if you're doing this, don't give up. It's going to be crummy. And, you know, we use the phrase embrace the suck, you know, which really is the truth. You know, there's days that it sucks. When I have a kid that, you know, gets arrested because of something that happened before they come to Boys Town, that sucks. It's a horrible day, you know, but we don't lose hope. We continue and we push forward and we see lives changed.
I love that. I'd like to say something that on the other side of the spectrum of what you were talking about, Trinity, you know, you're saying 16 years of trauma. How am I going to change this in 6 to 8 months? On the other end of that, we can say, like, for example, Riley, Sarah's daughter, she hasn't been removed from her home. She hasn't experienced significant trauma in her life. But if you took her and put her in Debbie's house tonight, that would be traumatic. And this is someone who hasn't lived a traumatic life. So even just we don't know what they've experienced, but just the removal from their environment, from their home, from their family is traumatic in and of itself without warning. So if we showed up at Riley's school and said, we're taking you home, you have 5 minutes, you're going to someone else's house, and we can't tell you why.
Right.
That a lot goes on in their heads. And so that is just something else that we take into consideration, or we did when we had kiddos. Like, we had younger ones sometimes. We don't know what they've experienced. They can't tell us, but we know that they're not with the same sense that they're used to, the same sensory noises, everything. And then something that really, a friend told me this, she's another foster parent, as we were getting started and I was out to lunch with her, she said, do not think that these kiddos aren't aware of how they're being treated. So they notice everything. Treat them the same way that you would want your child to be treated. So if our biological child was put somewhere else, this is how I want him to be connected with, and to talk about, hey, how are you feeling? Check in with them, as you guys said. That is so important, to just always make sure that you're keeping in mind, this is really hard, this is crummy, I feel stuck, but how would I want myself as a child, if you don't have biological children, or my own child, to be treated in this situation? And
Right.
That's what you move forward with.
Amen. True.
I just want to thank everyone for just opening up to us today. And I'm going to bring up Joel's comment here. This has been an enlightening discussion this morning. Thank you to this panel for sharing your knowledge and perspective. And I think that, you know, my hope is that the audience learned maybe some things that they didn't realize about the foster care system. I know I did, as I was even investigating things, and then you guys have provided even more things. And Jenna, thank you especially for that last comment, because, you know, the thinking about Riley, for example, and the trauma that, you know, she would go through just by that, and then compact that with all of the other trauma they've already experienced, that, you know, that one little trauma, and then on top of it, then we would expect that child to be perfect, you know, as they come into the house. No,
Right.
you know, like, there's going, you know, how would we feel if, you know, even us, we were pulled? So it just helps to provide a little bit more perspective on the situation and how it is that they're feeling. And I'm also going to pull up Divine Wisdom Mother Goddess. I absolutely appreciate all the shares, touching hearts today. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us today. I want to leave us with a couple of things. Trinity had mentioned Boys Town, so www.boystown.org. He also had another one that he had suggested, which was www.parenting.org. Trinity, can you tell us about that one?
So parenting.org is part of that wraparound services that Boys Town provides. You know, with that, you know, it's just giving parents resources on how to be a better parent. You know, when I went to Boys Town's training years ago, you know, I walked away and I was like, kids don't come with an instruction manual, but Boys Town wrote a really good one. And, you know, it's basically parenting.org is us taking what we know works with kids. And, if it works with kids with high trauma and that are very high risk, it's going to work with the average child. In the approach that we do, we teach replacement behaviors. And that's really, the gist of what we at Boys Town do is we teach kids how to replace the current behaviors that they have with appropriate behaviors. It's pro-social skills. We have a lot of corporations that come in and they're looking at Boys Town as an opportunity to donate. And we tell them about, how to accept criticism, how to follow instructions. And they're like, can you teach this to our employees? Because that's part of being successful, is being able to be employable. And at Boys Town, we have that opportunity to teach kids that stuff. But the parenting.org is our way of basically making it a little bit easier for folks to get on with doing these types of things so that their kids are better served.
So it sounds like there is a manual. It's called parenting.org.
What's that?
I said it sounds like there is a manual. It's called parenting.org.
Yes. And it's a great resource. If you have friends, that are struggling with their kid, because let's be honest, there's kids that come into care that their parents are great parents. I've had people that work for the state, that their kids come into care because they don't know how to deal with certain behaviors. They may have a kid on the spectrum, or they may have a kid that's dealing with, different issues. Parenting.org is a great resource to send them to give them, some options as far as, how can I address this behavior? How can I address this or that with my child? I've seen parents that take their kids down to the department and say, hey, please help me. I've used all my resources. I've used all of my mental health resources that are available. Please help me with my child.
Yeah.
And they have to surrender their kid to foster care because there's no resources available through the state. But parenting.org can help with that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to bring up Kim's comment. I've learned so much looking at the Georgia Center for Resources and Support website to find ways to help in Georgia. So I highly recommend, people, think about the things that have been recommended here. So instead of donating to, Goodwill or some of those organizations, think about luggage, clothing, bottles, formula, toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, or some of the things that were mentioned. Think about Big Sister and Big Brother. Think about respite care. Think about the Elijah House. Think about donating to parenting.org, to Boys Town, going to those Facebook pages and the needed supplies through Connecting Bridges, the personal hygiene. So, so there's so many different ways that people can help. And as everyone said, this is really how we start to help America. Like this is, you have to start with kids, and you have to start with helping parents that want to have their kids and providing them the resources they want to be able to keep their kids. That is how we can actually continue to help in situations, the things that we're dealing with. I always like to look at things in the 80-20 rule of things. If I do 20%, how can that help 80%? Well, for me, it's always been helping kids. And it's also helping those resources and to be able to help those people be successful with allowing kids to be kids and to deal with potential trauma they've already had, prevent potential trauma. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you everyone for your comments. And this, is just a great topic. I love doing these types of things and bringing on the panel. So just a final thank you to everyone.
Yes, thank you all.
Thanks for having us.